It's good to see you. I'm glad you're here. Glad you're dry. Seems to be quite the storm. Quite a few years ago, my daughter and son-in-law, being poor little church mice, and been planning special things, and they wanted to do something kind of special. So they saved and saved and saved, and they wanted to go to a concert. They had never been to a really big stadium kind of a concert, and they said, this is what we want to do, and could barely afford the somewhere north of the nosebleed seats, way up in the top. But they were excited. This was going to be a cool concert. And if you know anything about my daughter is absolutely allergic to being late to anything, which is a great thing. But what that meant is that they were at the concert venue good 25 minutes early, even before the opening acts. And they were sitting way up there, and this fellow wearing a credential around his neck came up and started talking to them. How are you doing? Been to one of these concerts before, you know, that kind of thing. And they were just chatting away. And he said, hey, would you like to sit closer? And they went, yeah, but these are where our seats are. He says, come on, I got some other tickets for you. Pulls a couple of tickets out of his pocket, hands it to him, and say, if you'll just go right down there, you can, they'll show you where you are. Now, my daughter's not also doesn't like to be late, but she is quite suspicious of something like this, and so she made sure she had her other tickets handy. But they went down, she and Briar, went down and got in on the floor, and wow, this is like 1/3 the distance from where we were. You know, if we sit here in the back of the floor, that'd be great, but the guy, they showed him the tickets, and they said, no, you're this way, and started walking. And they knew what those seats on the floor cost. Many times what they had paid for their little seats way up with the bats in the ceiling. And he kept walking past the rows of seats in the stadium, and then past the rows of the folded chairs that were out. And they got closer and closer to the stage, and they're going, "What? Are you sure?" He says, "Yeah." And they walk past the seats that are right there at the very front, in front of the stage. Seats that cost $1,000 for that concert. And he kept going until they literally had their arms on the stage like this. Now, I'm going to tell you from a dad's perspective, I knew that they were planning on going to this concert, and you know that some of the things that they had kind of sacrificed to pay for these tickets and things like this. And I was hoping that they would have a really good time. Anyway, I knew kind of in the back of my mind that was going on that evening. But the first text I got from Morgan from being at this concert kind of threw me off, because it simply said, Garth Brooks spit on me. Now, that's a cool story. It's a once-in-a-lifetime story of somebody that was looking out for a young couple and wanted to do something special for them. And that's literally what it was. There was no other agenda. Maybe that they wanted a young couple in that particular place and looked good on the cameras or whatever it is. It was a really great story. And when we talk about really fun things that happen like that, it's easy to go, wow, that was fun, that was great. and we miss sometimes the idea of the blessings that we have enjoyed. We have been in this season where we have talked about Thanksgiving a great deal. I'd like to continue that discussion just a little bit longer and talk to you a little bit about gratitude. Now, I'm going to tell you this is an enormous topic. When you do a word search for this idea, it is one of the most common and interesting and intricate discussions in all of the scriptures. There's words in the Bible like love that show up many, 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 many times, literally in the hundreds. I'll tell you another word or another idea that shows up just about as frequently, and that is gratitude in some form. And interestingly enough, I think that the concept of love, as deep and as powerful as that is somehow easier for us to grasp and to apply to our lives than gratitude. And I just want to touch on a couple of ideas about how we think of gratitude and maybe some ways to discuss that. There's a lot of words that we could apply, and there's a number of words both in Hebrew and in Greek that is used for this concept. But it still comes down to something has happened. Something that I have been able to do or to see or to take advantage of. That my life is better because of this, and how do I respond? And he says I should respond with gratitude. And immediately I feel, and we're going to talk about this in a minute, I feel a failure. I feel like I haven't done that enough, both in quantity and in quality. And it was because of this that I thought, let's explore this just a little bit and talk about some of the ways that I think we get off kilter and some ways that might bring us back a little bit closer to what was intended. So ride with me just for a minute through gratitude. Now, before you think that this is somewhat of an easy or a surface topic, probably one of the most in-depth and powerful books in all of the New Testament is the book of Hebrews. It is detailed, it is specific, it is argued so beautifully. And when you get to the very culmination of that argument, as he has talked about, you have not come to a smoking mountain, but you have come to Mount Zion, to the children of the living God, which is one of the most beautiful sections through there in Hebrews chapter 12. At the very pinnacle of this is this verse. Therefore, since we receive a kingdom which cannot be shaken, let us show gratitude, by which we may offer to God an acceptable service with reverence and awe. And then if that is not breathtaking enough, the last verse of chapter 12, for our God is a consuming fire. Oh, okay. Now, some of these things that I could put into context of worship and service, but in the middle of all of that is this statement of gratitude. Maybe I do need to have a little bit better handle on what this might be. Break this down just for a little bit. The therefore, of course, the old saw from the preachers is when you see a therefore, you need to know what it's there for, right? Everything that's gone before, the great statements in chapter 11, the roll call of the faithful, the statement in 10 about let us draw near, let us hold fast, let us consider how to stimulate one another to love and good works. As he's talked about all the things that have described in terms of the holiness of Jesus and his humanity and his place as God's priest and as the place of our sacrifice. All of this laid out in the book of Hebrews. And he says, when you take all of that into account, what is your response? What does God demand of me? Since we receive a kingdom and all the things that he has said up there about you have come to Mount Zion, the city of the living God, and myriads of angels. This is who we are. Let us show gratitude. Now, I want you to see that. And notice that he did not say, I want you to feel gratitude. This is show gratitude. Show it. Demonstrate it. Put it out there. How? By offering to God acceptable service of worship. Now, there's a wonderful thing that I love to talk about in this verse, that if there is this idea of acceptable service, there's also this thing of unacceptable. And I can tell you one way to make it unacceptable service and unacceptable worship is to do so without gratitude. Promise you. Kill it in a moment. So, one of the things that as we talk about gratitude is to see how vital it is, and vital that it is functional, that it is moving, that it can be seen, heard, demonstrated. A part of who we are. Not just a feeling. It truly changes what we do. Worship and gratitude go hand in hand. Now, about this time, my wife was terrified when I showed her the slide. She goes, "You're going to talk about me, aren't you?" I said, "Absolutely." Because have you gotten the gratitude speech? Have you delivered the gratitude speech? The gratitude speech takes a number of forms. I grew up in Florida with no air conditioning, and, come on, we were grateful. I had to walk to school through the snow, uphill, both ways. And what? I mean, some of these are silly. The only toys we had when I was growing up were rocks. And we were grateful. The only thing we had to eat was cold canned spaghetti, Chef Boyardee, and we ate it out of the can, cold, and we were grateful. I was talking about this just a little bit, and one of my girls looked at my wife and said, you know that every speech turned into the grateful speech, didn't you? I said, well, I could say that. But the problem is that it puts it in a specific context. Number one, it puts it into the absurd. But the other thing is it puts it into kids. If you Google how to teach gratitude or how to learn gratitude or something like this, this is pretty close to the first, at least when that moment that I did it. I just copied and pasted them. What do they all have in common? They're talking about kids. And if you were to jump on a political or cultural bandwagon right about now, it would be easy for me to say, well, this is a generation that doesn't have any gratitude. Well, yeah, maybe. But that's not what I want to talk about. not about how to teach kids gratitude. I want to learn how to have gratitude myself. I want gratitude. I need gratitude. I must have gratitude. And sometimes it's hard. It's hard to see it. It's hard to apply it. It's hard to value it. Because I see so many things that in our world is coming apart at the seams, or that is unjust or unfair, or I don't have any control over, and they seem to be dragging me down more and more and more, and what I really need is some little gratitude here, and appreciation and perspective of seeing first God, and we're going to talk about that. But one of the things I'd like for you to shake off just for a moment is I believe that the same way that we would learn gratitude as an adult will ultimately be the way that children learn gratitude, and that there is no difference in that sense. In fact, I think one of the first things we need to do, we'll talk about in a moment, is to model it. But before we get there, let me talk about what I consider to be the most difficult thing for me. Nope, that is not me standing on the edge of a cliff. Just so you know. I don't like edges. I don't like heights like this. I would be on my hands and knees at this little spot. Just a picture off the internet, but it's a picture of a canyon. At the bottom of that canyon is a stream or a river. That river, in my mind, represents the blessings that I enjoy every moment of the day. And it comes through there beautiful and clean. But it is the steep sides that represent all of the blessings that I have enjoyed and all of the things that God has done for me, whether it is just simply my health and my safety and the fact that Tommy nearly got sideswiped by a truck that was hydroplaning this morning and barely got to church alive. But that's my friend, my brother, and that's a blessing too. And all of the thousands of those, the planes that arrived safely, or the x-rays that were negative, or the times that people showed a little kindness to me that changed my world quite significantly. To me, that represents that huge canyon. All the things that God has blessed me with. And if I am going to show gratitude, how do I fill that canyon up to show the amount of gratitude that I should? And this is intimidating. Excuse me. It is. It's impossible. And I kind of throw up my hands and go, no, I can't quite, I can't even hardly make a start to that. To truly do it in a quantitative fashion. So I'd like for you, number one, is to break that paradigm and to look at it a little differently. In the moment that we have in our lives, as God has filled up our lives with so many blessings, in that moment, give all gratitude to God. To show gratitude by demonstrating gratitude in our lives. And in comparison to the stream that runs through that canyon, it is but a drop, but it is enough for me, because it is a little cup like this that I have in my hand. And my problem is that I often don't even share that. I don't have to fill the canyon. I just have to take what is in my hand at this moment and to appreciate what I have been given by the mercy and the love of God. Somebody said something to me this morning that brought something to my mind, and I want to share this with you. I had the privilege, when I was a young man, to act as a support system for someone else that was dealing with addiction. They were afraid. And I said to them, my simple offer was, if you'll go to meetings, the 12-step meetings, I'll go with you. I'll sit with you. I'll drive you there, no problem. And I'll be with you as support. It was one of the best educations I ever got. Did it for about 2.5 years. Almost every night, we went. Wow. It was amazing. But let me share with you one lesson that I learned. Number one, my first meeting, I was sitting, we were there late a little bit, and I was coming actually from church. I was dressed in slacks and a blazer, and I may have even had on a tie. Little skinny kid. And the only seat available was next to this huge leather jacket, chain-wearing guy with a beard. And this was not my crowd, but that was the only seat available. And I sat down, and I had no idea what to expect. It was my first meeting. And I was I'm going to tell you, the knees were shaking a little bit. That guy next to me, at one point in time in the meeting, they said, does anybody have any burning desires? Something that was urgent on their mind that they wanted to talk about. And I was sitting there in that chair, and I kid you not, I said, please, don't say anything about the skinny kid sitting right there. Sure enough, the huge man next to me, he was the one that spoke up. Yeah, I got something I want to talk about. No, not about me, not about me. I want to talk about love. My friend sitting across the room said it was the first time they'd ever seen an actual double take. Ended up, I got to know that guy well. He was a nurse at the ER. Really cool dude. Let me tell you what they have in an amazing way. At the end of the meeting, people stand up. Not every meeting has the same traditions, but in this particular one, everyone stood up and held hands. And I'm holding hands with this huge man that's been talking about love and how much it means in his life, in his recovery. And we're holding hands. And they often recite the Lord's Prayer or something like that. And then they squeeze hands and they say, keep coming back. Because it is in these walls that we live. Because the only other option is jail or death. The passion and the gratitude that was expressed in those words. As that memory flooded back to me this morning, something that you needed to see. Have you ever felt that kind of passion? Because in these rooms is where it is safe. Because it's either in here or hell. Do we see that in one another? Do we encourage that and to say, keep coming back? Gratitude in action. We have something that we can do directly. In fact, we're commanded to do it directly toward this very thing. Something we did this morning. This verse is often quoted as talking about, of course, the subject. To sing. But do you know that I sing to you and you sing to me? For what purpose? Well, we can sing, and I've been in these services, There is a habitation built by the living God for all the emanation of Hosanna. And I get through the song, getting about a third of the words right. But I have fulfilled my command of God of singing in worship. That's one of the 5 acts of worship, right? And I sang, not a piano within a mile. And I somehow think that I have mumbled through those words and have fulfilled my obligation to God to sing with psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing with thankfulness in our hearts to God. I hope one of these days one of the song leaders will do what Adam did last week. Turn and face each other and sing to the person across the hall, across the way, across the room. Pick somebody out and you sing to them. You sing. Say, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad we share this. I'm glad God died for our sins. Sing with thankfulness in whatever you do, in word or deed. Do all in the name of the Lord, giving thanks. Thanksgiving is no longer just turkey, cranberry sauce, green bean casserole. It needs to be something that lives with us every day, and especially when we come together. 3 things, real quick. Gratitude, thanksgiving, in heart and in words. This is from Colossians, of course. Can we say thank you and not be thankful in our hearts? No, that's not going to work. Best effort. Best effort. I often illustrate this, and I'm getting so that I need to make sure I can put them in the right context. But let me tell you how powerful music is. Music is one of the most powerful teaching tools in the world that has ever been seen. I can tell you this because there will be some people that can finish my statement. My bologna has a first name. It's 2 all-beef patties special sauce. Isn't that amazing? You're in good hands. Those jingles haven't existed, except for the Allstate one. Those jingles haven't existed on popular media for decades, yet they're stuck right there. I can't get rid of them. Why shouldn't we sing with enthusiasm so that these words are stuck in our heart and can never be moved? Thanksgiving, to give them passion. Every time, with only very brief exceptions, I think it's 2 Corinthians that is the exception to this rule. Paul began with the idea of I thank God. I thank God for you. I thank God for you. They are. If I haven't said it, thank God for you. Bobby, I thank God for you that you decided to stay and let me preach to you this Sunday morning. They're normally out of town when I preach. I don't know what that deal is. But they're normally gone. But anyway. But I could go around the room. Are we thankful? From one of the worst lists that is found in the New Testament about the difficult times will come for people who will be lovers of self, lovers of money, boastful, arrogant, revilers, disobedient to parents, ungrateful, unholy, and that verse continues on. But right in the middle of that is ungrateful. we must be grateful. This whole psalm, the psalm that you know if you know any psalm, ultimately is the expression of gratitude. The Lord is my shepherd, and I'll not want, because of all that he has done and will do for me, both past, present, and future tense are in this psalm. This is the one that we need to appreciate. Maybe the one that is the most important that I want to talk to you about is that I am responsible for my gratitude. I must choose. Gratitude is not something that just happens to us. It's not like getting splashed by a passing car. It's not like just getting rained on out there. We have to choose gratitude. If we don't, we're going to miss it. In fact, it's not just choose gratitude, but we must choose to obey the command to show and to have thanksgiving and gratitude. This is a beautiful section through this end of Thessalonians here. Rejoice always. Pray without ceasing, and in everything give thanks, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. If there is something that's missing in the equation about gratitude, do you think you need to fix it? Think you need to discover how to discover gratitude? It's as much a command as our singing and praying in the Lord's Supper and any of it. We are commanded to find within ourselves a changed mind. The change means I am grateful, no longer resentful, no longer hating, no longer angry, no longer threatening, no longer blustering, but instead the characteristic of what I need to be is thankful. Here's the problem. If you didn't know this secret, I hate to spill it, guys. I really do. Okay? A lot of times when preachers stand up and preach on a topic, what they're really doing is talking to themselves. In this coming year, I hope to find this in a much greater quantity, in much greater quality than I have in the past. Hope you'll help me do that. Sing to me, encourage me, lift me up. So, I'm going to tell you one more thing. On my phone, out of the blue, came a message. Hello, this is the oh no, that's not it. Sorry. Can't see that, but that's all right. That's a turkey on its back saying, Happy Thanksgiving. And it simply says, Happy Thanksgiving, brother. I am so thankful to know you, not only as a brother, but as a friend full of wisdom, discernment, and hope. Keep up the great work, brother. Came out of the blue from Drew Barnes to me. Sometimes we need the models for the people that can help us the most. Thank you, Drew, and thank each one of you. Think about these principles, and maybe we can do a little bit better in the coming year to find what we need to be thankful for. We take the last part of our service and dedicate it to someone that is struggling to find, understand, and obey God. How can we help you? Please give us a chance. Please give us that opportunity to encourage you in your walk and your search for the God of heaven. If there's some way we can serve you this morning, let us know by coming up front while we stand and sing our invitation song.